Hello, everybody, and welcome back. We are going to be talking today about method and constructor overloading. Now, this is going to be something you've probably actually seen before, but we're just going to kind of solidify this idea alongside some code, both in a main class and some class and object code. So first, let's just imagine this idea of going to the coffee shop. Maybe it's a Tim Hortons or a Starbucks or a Caribou Coffee if you're somewhere in the United States. But you're ordering your coffee drink that you love the exact same way that you always order it. But instead of getting a small, you're going to get a medium or a large. Or maybe this time you're going to add in a little bit of cinnamon. Or perhaps you're going to swap out the milk. You're going to have no milk. You'll just drink a black coffee this time. This is exactly the idea of overloading. We have the exact same request happening, but the details of the request are slightly different. And in Java, this is what happens when we call the same method name, but with different arguments. Now, if you go back to your previous learnings and understandings of Java code, you should know, that this right here is a method signature. This is a method signature. And this is a method signature. A method signature includes the name, and it's going to also include the parameters. Now we can see here that the parameters can be considered in a few different ways when it comes to the method signature. Both the type of parameter matters, as well as the number of parameters that we have here. So let's start by just taking a look at this code, understanding it, and then we'll run it and see what's happening. So I've got this class printer here. This class is going to have two print methods. We have a print method here and a print method here. You can see that they have the exact same name and that's going to be okay because we have a string message here and an int num here. Now, while the name is the same and the number of parameters is the same, what we can see is that the data type of that parameter is different. And that is different enough for Java to be able to see them as two different values and as two unique and distinct methods. So when we run our code in just a minute, we're going to come into our main, we're going to create a new object, we're going to instantiate a new object of type printer, and then we're going to go ahead and print hello and 42 as two different calls here. All right, so let's click visualize and see what happens. We'll give it a minute and our visualizer will boot up. Make sure it's a good size here for us to see everything. A reminder, this is going to be the next line that is going to execute, and here is our legend down here. So I push next. We can see that we've started off in main, and now we're about to make this printer instance. We come to the printer class, and the instance is about to be created. Now there's no instance variables, and we're going to use the default constructor. So that's going to just be basically all that runs inside printer at this point in time. You'll see that we have an instance of type P, that we have the printer instance, but that there's no fields or properties associated with it right now. And that makes sense because we didn't actually define any. They'd have to be right here between lines 1 and 2, and we don't have those. So now we're going to go ahead and call p.printHello. And now we have two different print methods. So the first thing Java will do is it will go and it will look for a print method, and it will find that there are two. The next thing Java will do is it will look at the data, the number of parameters. It will see that there's a single parameter. It will find that there are two different methods that fit that bill. And then they will go and take it one step further, and Java will look and see that this is a data type string. So it will go into the one right here, line 2, 3, 4. So we push next, and that's exactly where our code takes us. We can see that the string message that's coming in from main is going to be hello. We can see that the P value, the P object that was in main, is pointing to the instance of our object, and that since we called p.print on that object, it is the same reference. We can see that right here, that this reference referring to this printer instance is the one we called it on, P from main. Now we're going to go ahead and see that it says string message, system.out.println, string message. And that's exactly what runs and exactly what's going to print out over here. If we try to run this again, pardon me, not again, but move on to the next line, line 15, now we've got an int in here, and we're going to get int num coming right out there. And it prints out that one, and then our program is all finished running. So we can see that Java can differentiate between the data types really easily. And it knows if something is an integer or a string. In fact, if we did one more here, like this, while this is indeed going to print out a number, this is text, right? Those double quotes tell us that this is text. So we know for a fact that this is actually going to go into the string version of this call. Okay, let's look at another example here. Let's make a class greeter, and let's find 2 different ways in which we might want to greet somebody using our code. So we'll have a name. We'll say system, whoops, I definitely know how to spell, system.out.println, hello, name, there we go. But we can also do something here like string name, string title, where we would say system.out.println, hello, and we're going to put the title in, put a space, and then put the user's name. Okay, so now we can make our public class over here. Main, public, static, void main, string arguments. And we will say the new greeter, greeter G, is going to be a new greeter. There we go. So perhaps we would like to greet Ada, and we can call it just like that. Perhaps we would like to greet Ada by a more professional title, like that. There. Okay. Now, both of these methods, as we can see, are named greet. The parameters do differ, right? We have 2 strings here and a single string here. All right. Let's go into the stack frame, let's visualize this, and let's just see exactly how these 2 are going to be handled. Here's our code. We do this. We go in here, greet Ada. We're going to come right in, this name. We're going to end up with Ada inside that greet method, perfect. And then we're going to come down and do the other one, where we have a name and a title. Both are listed out here beautifully, and both will get printed out. Now, it's worth noting that when we have multiple strings like this, it's a good idea to keep things in the same order. If all this had was name, it makes sense to continue to put name first and then add the additional parameters after, especially when those data types are the same, because otherwise it can be really easy to make a mistake thinking you need to put name first if these were swapped. And you'd get something really confusing, right? So if we were like, okay, the way you would read somebody's name, Dr. Lovelace, we'd put it like this. But we tried to be consistent in our naming here, because that would make sense. What we might end up with, of course, would look something like this, Lovelace Doctor. Now, that's not what we want. So we then go and we say, well, let's just put the title first and the name second. And then we don't have to worry about that anymore. So now we run this, and it works, and we think that we're good. But in reality, somebody else comes along to use our code, and they started out with just a first name, like this. But then later on, they wanted to add a last name. And they were expecting, or not a last name, pardon me, a title. And what they were expecting is kind of the Java standard. There we go. The Java standard would be just to continue to add these parameters after the initial one. So we started like this, and then we realized, oh, this person actually does have a title. We're going to need to use the overloaded method. We try to write it properly where name comes first because it came first as the single parameter. And now this one doesn't make sense. So really what this comes down to is what kind of standards we have access to, what we want to make sure we're doing. And the best standard is consistency. So when we're adding to overloaded methods, we're going to just keep adding parameters to the end. Now, having a couple of overloaded methods is okay. It's not the end of the world. But our code can get really hard to read if we sort of keep adding stuff, right? And then we add a string last name. And then we realize we might need to do one that has an age. And then we realize we might have one that we want to do that has a last name and an age. And there are lots of ways to handle this problem, but this is not the answer. And at some point, we'll cover other ways to handle this problem. So keep in mind that while it's okay to overload a little bit, we don't want to do it everywhere just because we can. The last thing we're going to look at more explicitly, which we have seen already, but again, explicitly, is this idea of constructor overloading and something we haven't seen, constructor chaining. Let's start with, a class box. We'll make our variables width and height. They are private. We will go ahead and make a constructor int height. We can make it public. Doesn't matter in this scenario, I guess. Width will be W and height will be H. That's a G. H. Okay, and then we're going to write our main class. Public class main. Public static void main. String. I better put a print method in here so that I can actually read this data. System.out.println, the width, and the height. There we go. That'll be helpful. And now I can finish this off down here where I'll say box B is equal to a new box of size 10. Okay. And b.print, just so that we can have some code that we know works. Now, in true me fashion, I always think it's really important that we run our code to make sure it works before we move on, because if something is wrong, I want to know now. Before I actually run to the end of my code, I'm going to ask myself, what do I expect to print out? I expect width : 10, height : 10. I'll just click last and do a quick check, and I can see it worked exactly as I would expect it to, so that's great. Now I can go back and talk about overloading constructors. Now, what is the smallest width and height that a box could possibly be? It's not a box if these were 0, because if these were 0, it would not exist, right? It would be invisible. So the smallest that it could possibly be is, like, I guess 1 by 1. These are ints, so they are whole numbers. Not dealing with error checking around negatives or anything like that yet. But if we know that we have a default size, I'd love to be able to do something like this. New box, and be able to set my data. So I could go ahead and make a public box with no parameters, where internally I set my width to the smallest possible size and the height to the smallest possible size. And that's a great starting point. But here's the thing. If I want to go and change the variable name from width to W, I might be a little bit stuck. I have to do it in a lot of places now, right? I have to change the instance variable, every overloaded constructor, and I'm going to have to change it down here. What can we do to get around this? We can chain our constructors, okay? Chaining them. So what that means is instead of directly calling width and height here, I can actually call this and pass in 2 1s. And what is this actually going to do? It is going to call this constructor down here. So this means this object's constructor that has 2 variables with the same, with 2 parameters that are integers. And that is right here. So we can call it. So now if I change the name of width to something else, it will automatically also work for this updated one here. b2.print. There we go. We can visualize this execution. Again, I'm not going to walk all the way through it. At this point, I'll just sort of click and go to the end. And what we will see happen, actually that's a lie, I will show this one at least a little bit. So we have B already created with the width and height of 10. That's old news for us. But I think we should see that box B2 equals new box. We are going to go into this constructor. At this point in the constructor, before line 5 runs, int width and height are their default values. Int default values are 0. So we see that these are currently 0. Once we call this 1, 1, this is exactly like calling into the other constructor. Boom. Box int w, int h, 1 and 1 are now getting passed in as w and h. And now we can run lines 9 and 10 and actually change those values and reset them. 1 and 2. So now we have a new variable with those default values initialized without having to reset all of those internal values. And this allows us to avoid duplication of our code. So now when we go and do our printing, ta-da, we end up with one that is a width 10, height 10, one that is a width 1, height 1, and I don't have to constantly be resetting width and height in all of my constructors, thanks to this ability of chaining constructors together. The very last thing we're going to just show very quickly is invalid overloading that I can show with really any kind of code here. So we'll just do it right in main. Public static int calculate int x return x plus 2. That's one type of calculate method. And if I want to make another calculate method and over here I change the y, this is not valid, right? We can see that this is not going to be valid. Why is it not valid? Because the name is inconsequential. These two still have identical signatures, identical method signatures. So the code is, oh, I would have had to change this y anyway, but that code is not going to run. So let's just comment that one out for a second, try a different one. What if instead we do this? Return it as a double instead. There we go. Now the question, is this valid? I would implore you to try it. Don't just take my word for it, but this is not valid either. This is not going to work because that return type is not enough to differentiate the two different methods from each other. This is not valid overloading. Java does not consider this a different method. So it'll say same name, same parameters, can't tell them apart. That won't work. Things that will work include changing the name itself, new name. We can change the parameter type, a double. We can also add additional parameters, even if we don't use them internally for some odd reason. And all of those count as valid ways of overloading. So overloading lets us use the same method name with different parameter lists, and it makes code a lot more flexible while still maintaining clarity. We also saw that constructor chaining to avoid repetition is something that we can and probably should do. In my next video for this topic, we're going to visualize objects in memory, just as we've been doing as part of this visualize execution, but I'm going to dig a little bit deeper into what it means and how to sort of interpret those visualizations that we've been seeing. Thanks so much for joining me, and I'll see you next in my object diagram video. Bye!